Well, thanks for coming, guys. We're doing how to manage your business through profit and loss statements today. First and foremost, I'm not an accountant. Before you make any actual tax decisions, tax filing, all that, consult with a qualified tax professional. So 2 quotes that are important to business, life in general. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. So you could make $1 million, but if you spend $990,000 on your expenses, you're netting $10K. So tracking it with a profit and loss statement will help give you the visibility that you need to net more. And then the other one I like is what gets measured gets managed. So this applies not only with finances, but your health. If you want to run more, if you're going to track your mileage every week, that's going to make a big difference in how you actually increase your numbers. If you want to lose weight, I know people hate it, but counting calories does work. Keeps you accountable, because when you're not measuring things, you think, oh yeah, I don't think I ate too much today. I probably didn't exceed the amount of calories to stay in a caloric deficit, but it's usually not the case. So tracking and measuring things will improve your performance and their performance. So basic, I'm not going to kill you guys with PowerPoint, so don't worry. What's a profit and loss statement? It's a summary of revenue or income and expenses of a business over a specified period of time. So it doesn't have to be a certain period of time. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year. For our business, what I would recommend is obviously over a year's time. That's going to be important. But even if you have enough action in terms of income and expenses, looking at it on a monthly basis is going to be super helpful. So what did I make this month? What did I spend? There is some lag in our business, obviously, between marketing expenses and closings, for example. So that's why it is good to zoom out over a longer period of time, a quarter, a year, a half year. But once you're kind of in motion and you have that momentum, you can start to look at the trends month over month and say, okay, last month was awesome. What did I do 2 months before that? Because there's obviously that lag time, and how can I repeat that? So the formula is simple. Profit is income minus expenses. Pretty generic, most people should know that. And how do we track profit and loss? So obviously you guys are expecting QuickBooks as one of the answers. But first and foremost, you can do it with a pen and paper. You don't need something fancy, especially if your business is not flowing a lot of different transactions in and out. Benefit is it's free, but it is more time intensive and it's less portable or shareable in terms of collaborating with an accountant or with an admin or an assistant or a bookkeeper. So maybe to start, that's what you do. You have one closing a month, one closing every 2 months. You track your income, you track your expenses, MLS dues, office fees, all those things, and it's a good start. Once you want to come to the next level, Excel is free. You can use it through Google Drive with Google Sheets, or on your desktop, and you can track all your income in a cell, all your expenses, net them out, and look at your various time periods: monthly, quarterly, yearly. And then last but not least, which is the most convenient, most powerful, most shareable, would be apps, software, that sort of thing. So there's various accounting programs out there for tracking this stuff as a business owner. And we're going to be going over mostly QuickBooks today. So there's usually free versions of most software, but with a very limited capacity or quantity of transactions. So I've found, I think QuickBooks is the cheapest tier for QuickBooks is around $750 a month, but it has limitations. They may start you on like a truly free trial, but I found with financial software, it's kind of a pain to trial it out because it works best when you link everything and really invest a little bit of upfront time, and then it's powerful over the course of several months to really show you what's happening. So sources of profit. This is pretty straightforward. I just dumped a bunch of various ones that you guys will experience in your business. So commission, is the main source of profit for most of us. Referral income, ingoing and outgoing. Broker fees. So when I say broker fees, I'm talking like that you may be charging to a client during a transaction, not fees paid to our broker. Profit share from building your downline. Title, insurance shares. BPOs, not very common. It probably will become more common in the next couple of years, but with the right training and approval, I think through Dominic, you can get paid to perform broker price opinions for banks and for other industry stakeholders. Basically, it's like performing desktop appraisals. Showing houses for other agents. I know a couple people in the room, including myself, do this periodically, so whether you're helping out a coworker or not, if they're paying you, that's income. How they're paying you is kind of up to you guys, and how you're recording it is again up to you guys, kind of along the lines of, is this side hustle income or tip income, but IRS wants to see that as income on your reported taxes.
So you actually report your, like, if somebody Venmos you to show a house for them, you report that?
Yeah, so you're supposed to, and they recently did pass whatever bill where those vendors like PayPal and Venmo are going to issue a tax statement. I think it's over a certain
600.
It's 600 gross per year or something.
How do they know if you're a business?
See, that's what I'm not sure about.
Like, so if I just say I Venmo Nick Valdanis for showing houses, like I'm not putting thanks for the work that you're doing for me. You know what I mean? Like it could just be thanks for lunch that you bought me last week.
Yeah, so it's
I thought it was 600 per transaction, not yearly, is it?
I'll look into that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm just curious.
I believe the distinction is, is it for goods and services versus sending.
I think it might ask you, and I always just
they do have that button.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And then the other thing too is though, this is for income. So I mean, this is for income, right? So if you are getting that as an income, you want to have it here. What you pay your taxes on and everything, that's going to be up to you. But I think for the purpose of this class, you want to make sure you know what you're doing with all your money.
Yeah.
So tracking it.
And furthermore,
Your accounting can help you with that other stuff. Yeah.
along the lines of Venmo, if you're paying a showing agent, you want to be able to deduct
To write that off,
expense from your taxes. So
Exactly.
they should be claiming the income, you should be claiming the expense.
I get lost with all this stuff. So.
Yeah, and the true IRS correct format to do is to issue somebody a 1099, which nobody does really. In our kind of casual.
Let Nick know.
Yeah.
He's got one coming. By the end of January.
I mean, when you're hiring contractors to do work on projects, you're supposed to issue them a 1099.
Yeah.
It's just something that not a lot of people are familiar with. It's not heavily policed from what I can tell. But in terms of bookkeeping, that's the way it's supposed to work. Rental income. So this is a whole nother class, but when you own properties and you're renting them out, you're getting income. You are having expenses, obviously. So the way I actually do it, I do not use QuickBooks for my rentals. I use another service to keep them separate. With QuickBooks, how they set it up is, you're a business. So I have my real estate business, John Nisley, real estate agent in QuickBooks. If I wanted to track my rentals, I would actually have to set up an additional business and for an additional cost, and I would go into two separate kind of tabs to manage each. So it does have that capacity, but the software I'm using for tracking my rental income and expenses is free right now, and it's doing the job. And that's called Stessa, if anyone's curious. STESSA. It's actually assets spelled backwards, but that's been good. I've implemented that this year because I am. Before this year when I started getting serious about tracking things, I was the shoebox guy that brought all the receipts to the accountant, where I was scrambling in early April to try to compile all my documents, and I'm missing things. I'm missing significant expenses that I just can't remember, just can't track down in my email. So that's how I want you guys to justify the cost of tracking, is you're going to far exceed your QuickBooks subscription expense by being able to capture all the true expenses and take full advantage of them. Losses, lots of them in this business. Licensing fees, MLS and Realtors Association dues, mileage and fuel. So QuickBooks does have a mileage tracker built into most of their tiers of pricing. I use MileIQ, and I have for the past couple of years. And what I'll probably do this year is try to strike MileIQ out of the equation. That way I'm not paying for two services that do the same thing. So in wherever I put my phone, so there's a QuickBooks app, and it will run your GPS in the background while you're driving. And so it'll track your starts and stops, and then you'll go in and categorize, okay, was this a personal mileage trip, or was this a business one? And for a lot of you guys, most of them are business, or can be justified as business in terms of, you know, was I driving to my house, which is also a rental property? Was I driving to the office? Was I driving to Home Depot to pick up tools for, you know, putting a sign in the ground? So, you know, think somewhat creatively, obviously follow the rules, but you should all be deducting mileage. And you can deduct fuel, but you can't deduct both, is my understanding. So talk to your accountant, you know, before you file, so that you know what you're tracking. Because if you're going to track fuel, you want to save your receipts, or you want to use maybe a specific credit card for gas. That way you can easily go in December every year, you know, CSV or Excel file all your gas expenses and then report that.
John, do you know if you still need a log for fuel, just like you do for mileage?
You may.
I would think, right?
Yeah. All this is predicated on if and when you get audited.
Yeah.
So, you know, with an app like QuickBooks Mileage Tracking or MileIQ, that's your log, and you can download that at the end of the year. I think MileIQ is like $60 a year. It doesn't break the bank. But yeah, you're always going to want to keep documentation. So I don't know with fuel if you need to specifically record trips, because that's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
And what do
But
you mean, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That was rude.
No, it's okay.
What do you mean logging though? Like literally writing it down as well as doing the app, like he's saying?
Well, no, not both, but
Not both, one or the other.
Like if you drove from home to the office.
Yeah,
And
definitely
you're-
rather use the app. So
Exactly.
you're saying you
That's not-
would suggest to do both though?
No.
Well, no, you want to categorize it though.
you have-
Because you might be driving to your friend's house, that won't count for your taxes. You know?
Yeah, you have to record it somehow. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to
Okay.
be both pen and paper and an app, but you need to have a log, that way
And
you
usually,
can prove.
if you talk to your accountant, it's usually a percentage. They'll take a look at that and say, you know, so if it turns out to be a percentage, really, your fuel. You can't write off 100% of your fuel. If you have a credit card for fuel, you can't write off 100% of that, just like your
Well, no,
cell
if you take the
phone.
standard mileage deduction, then you're not writing off any of that. You're just doing your mileage times.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Whatever the.
53
You
and a
want
half
to
cents
get
or
it, but
whatever.
it's usually, yeah, so, but it's
There's-
good to have it, and then you can, like you said, at some point, just even quarterly, check it out and say, okay, this was for business, this was for pleasure. Because pleasure's not gonna be a write-off, business is going to be.
Yeah, and like I said, there's ways, especially as you're more active in the business, where you can kind of shift and justify a lot more of your trips as business. So keep it within the rules, but we have several rental properties around town. When I go to Home Depot, whether it's for the rentals or for picking up something for real estate, I deduct that as business mileage, because if it's not for one business, it's for the other. I report it all through my agent business just for simplicity, but yeah, you just classify whether a trip was for personal reasons. Like if I'm visiting family over the holidays, generally I don't have a business purpose for that. Although if you're smart, you can set it up where you're meeting with a referral partner up in State College, for example. And then, hey, that 180 miles times 2, that was for a business trip, you know? So there's ways to be smart, savvy, and creative about it. But as a starting point, you need to be able to track and record. And I think as much as people may justify, like, oh yeah, I'll just keep a notebook, it's a huge pain in the butt.
So you're saying when you download that QuickBooks app and start tracking it one way or another through the app, it'll show up on your account under this, I guess, mileage tab here?
Yes.
Like it'll all be connected?
Yeah, you have to have the app, because that's how they record the mileage. But yeah, I'll show you guys. I haven't gone through the mileage tab on the desktop, but we'll take a look and see what mine says. Because I'm still using MileIQ for my tracking, but like I said, this year I'm going to try to switch over. Parking and tolls, you're showing houses in the city, you're going up the turnpike, you know, whether or not if you have an easy pass, you can go back in and look at your, your total fees and categorize them out. I'll usually do that at the end of the year. It's not like you can, the beauty of this is you can link credit cards and bank accounts straight to QuickBooks and then go and categorize them. But some things, maybe they only want a specific checking account or another payment method, and just you can manually add it. Software and apps, obviously we're talking various software and apps today, so your CRM, your website, QuickBooks, MileIQ, other services. Networking events, Triple Play, tax deductible, local networking events, meetups, going for coffee with your mortgage lender, one of your clients, all tax deductible, and it's also an expense. Meals with clients we just covered, marketing materials, general and property specific, like listing photos, signs and lock boxes. For people who are a little bit more established, wages and salaries for some of your assistants and admins. Internet and phone, you guys, whether or not you're mainly using a phone for business, if you have 2 phones, keep it separate or whatever, you can count the phone expense and the service expense against your business. Office supplies, and that's it. There's many more, but I just want to hit the main ones. So here's a sample. Don't worry about squinting your eyes to see it, but this is how QuickBooks breaks down the report on a profit and loss. So let's see here real quick. Up here at the top, income. Let's see where it switches to expenses. Right here. So you have a gross profit as all of your income items, and then expenses is significantly longer because there's just more categories. And then that's gonna, you're gonna subtract your expenses from your income, and that's your profit. So we'll jump into the demo. How many of you guys have a profit and loss statement or already have QuickBooks now? Jim, I know you have it. Sam got it. Anne Marie has it. Doesn't use it.
I have QuickBooks, but I don't know how to do the profit and loss. I tried to.
Okay.
I think it's because I don't have everything set up right yet. You have to have everything set up and linked.
Like
and
linked to your
start,
accounts.
labeling stuff, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'll go through. There's a lot of capability in QuickBooks, and I will say I use only a portion of it right now. Just what's important and what I kind of need to see. But there's a ton of extra reporting.
Question. I get totally overwhelmed with this type of stuff and then just end up not doing any of it.
Yep.
So you, every receipt that you have, you at some point put that into QuickBooks and label it and everything?
No. So this is something I highly recommend.
Yeah.
Get a credit card that you use just
Yeah.
for your business.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't save receipts. All I do is go into my Chase, my Chase business account, and I only swipe that card for business expenses. I actually have a
Okay.
separate one. I finally got a separate one this year for the rental properties, so I didn't have to sift through.
Okay.
So credit card specifically for your business, and then I also recommend a bank account specifically for it. So
A checking account?
yeah, checking would be what I would recommend. That way, if you do it right, and it's tricky because you might have an account you already use, to feed all your other recurring payments and whatnot, but the cleanest way to do it is checking account where your income is direct deposited, your credit cards and expenses are paid out through that, and then you can actually, pay yourself into your personal bank account. So,
I see.
So how much time would you say you spend on keeping this updated every week? You have a certain
20 or 30 minutes.
Okay, a
if you're
week.
bored waiting at a
The setup
showing.
is what takes the most time,
Yes.
linking everything, labeling it, and getting
Once,
it set up.
once you're set up, in theory, you could forget about it the whole year and then just marathon it near the end of the year.
if you get an audit letter.
Yeah. Or, when you're reporting to your accountant
Yeah.
for your next year's filing. But yeah, if you maintain it regularly, you can do it.
It's not a ton of I feel like time just goes so fast that
Yeah.
anytime I make a commitment to do something like this, it's 6 months later and I'm like, oh, I never did that,
So you're going to use this to capture everything, and then sorting and categorizing it is, what's
You can
going to
do it at
keep
any
you
point.
organized.
Yeah.
You can do it at the gas pump. You can do it while you're waiting for the kids at school.
Okay.
The beauty is the app. You go in, you just, hey, what's this? And it'll start to. What's nice about the apps is they'll start to recognize, okay,
Yeah.
the $65 a month from Delaware County Regional Realty is
Yeah.
office fee.
Or the MLS fee is whatever that you
Yeah,
pay every month. Okay.
$111.30 every quarter.
So it
They're
starts
gonna
like
start
predicting those
auto-categorizing.
same
Yeah,
expenses.
and you can set up rules where it's automatically going to.
Okay.
That's up to rules.
Okay.
What?
It's a little bit easier.
Set up rules?
Yeah, so basically, like it'll start to recognize
Yeah.
expenses that are
I thought it
typical.
automatically did that. What do you mean set up a rule?
You can go like the next step and set up specific rules, or it'll suggest like, hey, is this always office supplies, or is this
Oh,
always
okay.
meals with clients?
Okay.
Like brick and
If
brew.
it's
Do you want to?
suggested, I'll do it probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to go crazy on it, but it becomes helpful because then
Start
you
with
rarely.
basics.
I think realtors lose out on a bunch of deduction,
They really do.
possibilities.
And I think the other thing that they lose out on is they spend a lot of money on things that aren't making them money, and if you're looking at it constantly, you're like, okay, I don't need that, I'm gonna get rid of that, it's not
Yep.
making me any money.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're not holding your money accountable for you, it's going out constantly, we're not sure, So I think it's really, Gary Keller talks about it all the time, holding your money accountable instead of us, our money holding us accountable, you hold it accountable. And then Bob Wells' mastery class, wealth mastery class, he talks about the different accounts that you can set up, so you have the one where your income comes in and then you put it in for your savings and you have, so he goes into these in-depth accounts that you should set up and they're really awesome. But what I learned the most from him, from tracking money, is there's so many things we waste money on.
Yes.
And so when you see that, the answer to your question, Megan, is you should look at this on a regular basis because that's when you see that you're wasting money and you say, hey, you know what? That's an extra $600 a year that I could be putting towards either an investment property, savings, or whatever that may be. But
Yeah, what I would recommend is put a recurring monthly calendar task.
Yeah.
On a day you pretty much expect to be light or in
Doing
the office,
nothing.
9 a.m. every fourth Friday.
right,
Yeah.
your time.
Here's where I'm going to jump into QuickBooks, categorize, review my profit and loss, and then take the next step and say, okay, I've been paying $16,000 a month to Zillow for the last 12 months and I've got no leads. Time to cut that expense and reinvest somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right.
Obviously, the
Yeah, no, that
exact-
makes sense. Everything's time blocking, and
Yeah,
I get that if you really want to run your business like a business, this is a big part of it.
It is.
So
and you don't have to be nutty about it
yeah,
to be successful and effective. You just have to give it like the occasional attention after you're set up, after you've linked your credit card,
Yeah.
your checking, and it's gonna be the repository
Yeah.
for that information. So let me jump in, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of questions as we go. So first and foremost, I've been working with the people at QuickBooks to try and get a discount. They've been giving me a lot of trouble in responsiveness, so I just want to show pricing tiers. So this is the tier that I use, Simple Start, and I think some of you could probably get away with their freelance tier, which I'll scroll down and show you. Self-employed, $750 a month, and just be aware that these discounts are like their 3-month introductory rate, and then it actually goes, it's hard to see, but $15 a month is crossed out. So I pay $26.50 a month because my 3-month discount is gone for the Simple Start tier. So they have $25 plus taxes and fees. So track incoming expenses, invoice and accept payments. You guys may or may not do this. It's actually come in handy for me, like if we're at the closing table and somebody needs to get money across the table legitimately, like I can generate, a clean out invoice that's going to be paid to me, and you can kind of like, it gives you that extra capability of providing a legitimate invoice or requesting payment from somebody. Maybe you paid a contractor and you want to invoice them professionally to reimburse you or something. That's handy. Let's see if I can zoom in here as well. This is where I don't know Apple as well. Anybody? How do you zoom in on
The 3 little dots on the right-hand corner, there's a zoom.
Okay, I was going to try the keyboard way, but that's cool too. So, all right, that's probably easier to see. So you can see track mileage, run reports, caption organize receipts. So you can take a picture of receipts through the QuickBooks app and it'll scan it. It'll basically read it in. And you can even set it up with a little extra legwork to kind of auto link to your credit card to to sync it up. Track sales and sales tax, not the kind of sales that we're doing really. It's more for like a inventory-based business. Send estimates and manage 1099 contractors. So most of the top ones we're using, bottom 3 not as much. You can see the self-employed version does most of what you need to do starting out. So you guys may, maybe it's smart. Start on the lower tier. If you feel like you're missing out on capability, it's pretty easy to upgrade. Just go into your account, billing and subscription, and upgrade. We actually did Jim's the opposite way. We downgraded his account, and depending on how you pay, if it's you can pay monthly or yearly, they'll prorate you back or they'll just apply it to the next billing period. So I'm going to jump in and show you guys just straight from the login how I use QuickBooks. So QuickBooks Online, log in. Make sure I don't get my info saved on here. So you can set it up to that your username is directly through your KW account, through Gmail.
Steve, is that your oldest daughter?
It is. This is Spencer Jane.
She's
Hey,
so
we did
cute.
an introduction.
Hi.
Hello. All right, so since I haven't logged into this computer ever on QuickBooks, it's gonna two-factor me, which is nice, protect my financial information. And I'm gonna real time it with my stuff, so don't tell everybody about my money. But I don't have a
Well,
demo.
let me ask you for those.
Yeah, so, the interesting thing is now that we're in the new year, it's gonna default to the current year you're in, so it's gonna show pretty much nothing for
So
me.
you look broke right now?
Yeah, I haven't sold a house all year. So this is the dashboard. It's kind of overwhelming at first, and it takes some time to know like the main clicks you're gonna look at. But they have it set up in like a flowchart workspace with all the icons there. Let me get zoomed in again. I don't really use that. I kind of gravitate over here towards the menus. And I will say it's tricky. I'll go to mileage first. It's tricky at first to know like where do I need to find this this item that I'm looking for. So come to me as you guys are setting up. We can even sit together for setups. And they do have a pretty good help section over here. If you click this arrow, you kind of just punch in what you're looking to do, and it'll take you to usually a resource that they have on their blog to explain. So here's the mileage tab, and like I said, I'm not using this heavily, so it shows that I haven't classified anything in 2021, but here's a trip. It picks up my starting location, and in this case, I probably just was walking my dog, so it took me right back home. So I would delete a transaction like that. And you can set up rules here, but business and personal, let me find one that's actually significant.
So you don't have to turn this on when you get in the car or anything?
It runs in the background, it's already on. So
Yeah, the
here,
app one.
here, for example, I was going to a
That's crazy.
pre-settlement walkthrough, way up in Northeast Philly. So actually it was coming back. So I started, let's make sure. Since I'm not super familiar, it looks like they're saying I started there, ended here, but they didn't tag a specific address. They're kind of asking me like, what address did I actually end up at? I may have been here, I may have been at my house, but once you set it up, it's gonna auto recognize that kind of stuff. But the potential deduction here is important.
Yeah.
At the IRS mileage rate, there's almost $16 of deduction.
It's a lot of money.
Through the course of the year, it could be. I think last year my business mileage may have been like 6,000 or 7,000 miles. So
Wow.
it's significant.
Yeah.
And if you get audited and you have all this, guess what? The government, you get through things so much easier.
Yes.
It's when you don't have it that they start asking you major questions, and you gotta find things. And I know so many people that have had hardships with this. If you have this, they love it. The government loves this because then it's like, okay, case closed. You got everything we We need,
Yeah, they could dig into this if they really wanted
Yeah.
to, but it's more likely if you said, like, if you had a round number, like I drove 6,000 business miles and 4,000 personal miles, and you have no logs, like, they know you're guessing.
right,
And your accountant may say that, that's reasonable, and you can kind of average it or go by last year. So talk to your accountant about that if you haven't been tracking, but the cleanest way is to use the actual numbers. So that's the mileage feature. What you're really going to look at is, I find this helpful. This breaks down the trailing 12 months. Let's see, money in. I don't use these reports as much as what I'll do is I'll go to reports, and they have some typical reports. So I'll click profit and loss, and here you can see the time period. So my year-to-date profit and loss has nothing listed. Last year, let's see here. And they have all these. You can plug in the dates manually if you want to look at a specific time period, or you can use typical time slots. I'm looking for last year or last year to date. Run report. And this accounting method, I just leave it to the default. There are two basic accounting methods, and I think the main difference is, what type of business are you? Are you inventory based or are you service based? But I think both reports would be identical for mine because I'm not selling inventory.
John, if you have multiple checking accounts, can you separate, like I have, so I can do a profit and loss just from my LLC, right?
You should be able
Somehow?
to. Yep.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of customization here.
Yeah, that's my problem. Somehow I can't separate them.
Yeah, if I did, I don't know exactly where to set it up, but I have a strong suspicion that it can be done. So this is the whole report where I can just straight up PDF this and look at it, talk to my accountant with it. Or you can actually give your accountant like a profile access to go in and view this on their own. So I'm going to zoom in so we can see it.
Jim, if you YouTube how to set that up in QuickBooks, you'll find
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, QuickBooks has been around for a while, and there's a lot of resources, both their information and third-party
We're gonna help.
blog writers and stuff. So, like we said, main income source is commission. I do have some other, sometimes I'll do like a mail report scan for somebody, so I tag that under services. I don't know what the bonus and tip revenue was. Profit share I really made out last year, so this is gonna sum it up.
$19.25 you didn't have?
That's right. And then the expenses is the big part. So obviously, making a ton of money is great, but if you can't control your expenses, like I said, you're hosed. You might as well you'd be better off making 50 grand and having 5K in expenses than making 500 grand and having 490 in expenses, because there's a lot more headache, and time involved as you make more money. So.
And I feel like it makes you, a lot of top agents, not all of them, but a lot of them spend a lot of money in expenses.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes you feel better to know, like, oh, I can make that money and not have those expenses, so you're making out a lot better in actuality,
Yes.
So just always keep that in mind. Some people are spending a lot of money to run these businesses.
Yeah,
You don't have to.
When you see the mega agents that are boasting about their numbers, remember that they're probably paying multiple staff members. They're paying their payroll taxes for that. They're paying.
They could be paying that
bills.
$15,000 a month to Zillow for
Yeah.
leads,
Yeah, so keep it in perspective and run your business and think like a business owner. Is this next expense expected to bring me enough return to justify it? And you might not know right away. One second. You might have to give it 3 months or 6 months where you're paying for a specific lead generation service, or you're doing home buyer events and paying for catering. You're not going to see the immediate results in our industry, but set a time period up front, expect a little bit of a slow start, but then look back 6 months later and say, here's what I invested, here's how I can directly source specific transactions to that activity. Sam?
Okay. So these categories are coming straight from what you tagged them as when you were going through
Yes.
your transactions.
So that's a good
And
question.
would you, wait, are you saying yes, or are you just saying yes, that's a good question?
I'm saying yes to your question.
Okay.
Yes?
We
So,
love clarification.
So I'm gonna jump to transactions now, because let's not put the cart before the horse, you're right. So here are this is my business credit card. This is the account that I currently use for direct deposit and whatnot, although I'm gonna separate that out into its own specific checking account, so it's not commingled with my other personal stuff. So it's mainly gonna be for me, credit card and checking. I recently I have a savings account for, I put 30% of each commission into a savings account. That way when taxes are due, when quarterly taxes are due, I'm not like a deer in the headlights, I'm not scrambling. So
That's awesome.
absolutely recommend that.
So should this just be business accounts, or does it matter if you have your personal accounts and your business accounts attached?
You can have them all in there, because when you categorize, you can delete stuff, so it's no longer visible. So you'll see I have excluded. And I'll exclude, like home serve, for example, is sewer line insurance I have on one of my rental properties. Because it's a rental property expense, not an agent expense, I exclude it. I don't want to see it in this QuickBooks. But you can still have the account. So don't stress if you're seeing expenses that are personal related. You'll just go in, and when you categorize, I'll go for review.
So that's what you think I would do, is if I have personal and business accounts on here, I should categorize my business accounts and just take out my
And
personal
delete.
accounts
Yeah,
for profit and loss reasons.
yes. Assuming you're tracking your agent business specifically, cut everything else out that's not related. Now, whole different topic, you should also run your personal life with some tracking. And, what's my income and outflow.
Should it be separate QuickBooks accounts?
I wouldn't,
Is
I
that
should
easier?
have said, I should have worded it
Categories,
differently.
can
I
you
use-
categories?
I use mint.com,
Okay.
which is actually also an Intuit platform, Intuit QuickBooks, Intuit, Mint. So that's a free app where, same thing, you can link up bank accounts, investment accounts, and I use that to track my net worth and look at my general personal expenses, just because it helps me to keep things in check. You don't have to do that, but if you're not feeling that you're 100% financially efficient, track your business, track your personal stuff. If you come up with a system in the same QuickBooks platform that you like for your personal stuff, go for it. There's no rule against it, but on your Schedule C, when you're filing, your accountant's going to care about the business income and expenses, not the
Okay.
personal.
Thank you.
Yeah, so here, I have my accounts linked. Whenever they transact and they are confirmed on my credit card or my checking account, they'll hit the QuickBooks for review tab. Sometimes they'll auto categorize, or they'll suggest this category, and I just have to confirm. So I recently just paid for the annual rather than the monthly billing option. So they hit me with the $260.61, which is probably prorated from what I was already paying. And they do offer a discount if you pay by year. I would say start monthly, because if you're not going to use it, you're just blowing money. But then, yeah, you can upgrade later. So I just confirm. It's an office expense. Cricket, utilities and phone. It realizes that I've done this in the past.
Does it come up with the descriptions itself? Or
Yes.
Okay.
It reads it off your statement, your credit card or your bank statement.
Okay.
You can change it. You can add a tag if you have specific tags. I don't go that far.
Yeah.
You could assign it to a customer. I don't have a lot of these. If I'm invoicing somebody or paying them, like Steve, for example, I have him listed as a customer in QuickBooks because it requires a name. But it categorizes phone service. This is the transaction date. You can add attachments if you feel like attaching the specific bill from that provider, and then confirm, and it gets filed away, and it's always going to show up in the categories and your P&L when you're looking at it. let's see. Yeah, these are all business expenses, so maybe I want to change the category. Google Suite that I pay for my own URL. I want to go in here and see more categories. So this is where, if you're changing the category of something that was automatically suggested, you would go. You can either search it here or you can click through. Most likely, I'm paying for app and software, so I'm just going to click through the expense tab and scroll. And just pick what's appropriate. And there's not it's not a make or break if you're not perfectly categorized, as long as you capture it as an expense.
Wait, hold on. Can you say that again? What is this? This is subcategories?
This is, this item, this $6.36,
Yeah,
I'm categorizing.
yeah.
It's categorized as an office expense.
Did you make the office expense category?
So they come with a lot of pre-selected categories. I've added a couple here and there as I felt the need, basically by clicking the new button.
Okay, I see what you're saying here.
But
Okay.
these, in large part, are already set up, established, and they're pretty comprehensive. So I'm going to scroll down and see what I can find. I'm going to change it. Office expenses. So you can see it automatically categorized as just the overall category. I'm going to put it into software and apps. And it may have already been that way, but basically you can change the category. You can add a new category if you want to specifically track an item. Like for example, if you're paying for lead generation, add a category specifically for that provider.
Mhm.
That way if you have multiple, you can compare what did I pay this service for leads versus that. Make sense?
Yep.
Cool. So all this is about is capturing the expense, making sure it's categorized in a way that you can make sense of. It doesn't have to match perfectly to what I would do or what Becca would do. It just, you want to be close. So I wouldn't categorize, paying for my Gmail account as meals with client.
Right.
It's not appropriate. So that's the transaction tab. And what's confusing at first is I'm looking through the account that is highlighted in blue. So if I wanted to look in another account, I would click on it and then it's gonna pull up. There's nothing for review. I'm all set with this account. We're all categorized. So, Megan, to answer your question, I could have 100 transactions. Just go through, churn and burn, make sure they're all categorized and confirmed, and you're all caught up basically.
Okay.
And then once they're categorized, you can still view them easily through this tab. You can go through, you can change them, you can uncategorize them and then start over.
So I have hundreds to categorize. What if I just want to start over? Can I just delete them? Or do I have to go through all of them and do it?
Well, I wouldn't delete them because you still need to capture them. Unless you wanted to
So I should sit down for a couple hours and just do it.
Yeah,
Unless you're doing a January 1, 2022 start, and you want to just move forward, right?
you could,
That's what
yeah.
I'm saying. Can I just delete them from last year? Start over?
Well, how are you gonna capture them when you
Yeah.
file?
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
don't-
like anything though, your website, you take the time up
Yeah,
front and
I
then
know.
it's.
But once you, when you
Once
go,
do it,
say
you're
you,
good.
say you have, Pico, right? I know we don't, not for us, but at home, but say you have Pico. You put in Pico twice, it asks you, do you wanna capture this? And every time the
So I
Pico
won't
bill
have
comes
to
in,
do
you have to do it
necessarily
again.
do every single item individually.
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
So what I did was I set my account up and then I added all these accounts and stuff and then I just never logged back in and then all this stuff's happening now.
You can do a lot of stuff in batch, and that's
Okay.
one of the benefits. Let me find a recurring one.
Right.
I'm gonna search by description, so it just has the name Delaware in it, Delaware County Regional Realty. And, okay, here's my office expenses, printing fees, all the other high fees, no, I'm just kidding.
Right, and that's all.
So if I wanted to change all these at once, I can click the select all button. It shows there's 10 of them. They're money out transactions, which is usually an expense. And it even totals it up, which is nice. And then what I could do is, there should be an edit button somewhere. Maybe it's because they're already categorized and it doesn't like it but basically, like, I can batch modify.
Do it all together, okay,
Yeah.
that's cool, that's
I
good
think
to
it's
know.
mostly helpful in the it probably allows it in the forward category. Let me
Thank you.
remove that, so. But yeah, Sam, I think we can churn through it. I can probably help you do it in like 30 to 60 minutes.
Okay.
You'd be surprised. So yeah, once you're set up, and the big thing is linking the accounts. So you go in, don't know exactly where it is. That, like I said, that's the tricky part, is knowing where to go for.
Link accounts. To the right,
To the right.
so you can link account, down a little bit. Right above citizen.
There we go. Yep, perfect. And this probably appears in multiple locations, but managed connections. So these have a live communication between the bank. I don't use this account anymore, so I can probably deactivate it. But these are the 3 banks that I currently am using either a checking, savings, or a credit card account through. They're linked. It'll tell you probably the most recent, recent data pull, which you could then refresh. And let's see here. Like I have, 6 different Chase credit cards. I only linked the one I wanted to see. Otherwise, I'm just going to be overwhelmed with all the other stuff. So that's the benefit, kind of before you even get into QuickBooks, is something that's a central repository for expenses and a central account for income. What questions do you guys have about using QuickBooks? Things you want to see me go through?
John, are you in this every day?
Not necessarily.
Or just the once a month that you put yourself aside for to say, I'm gonna look at QuickBooks today?
I'm usually only in it when I want to update my profit and loss and see, like, okay, how am I doing?
Okay.
Honestly, like, aside from when you're ready to use the data for filing, it's mostly tracking and just checking in on where you're at. Sam?
What was I gonna say? When you log into this, like, for your accountant, what are you giving him? Like, what are you getting out of here for him? Just your profit and loss?
So
Like, you
that's
set
what,
this up, like, specifically for profit and loss and, like, tracking mileage? Is that your?
yeah, so when they're filling out when they're completing your taxes and filing, they need your gross income, they need your expenses, any depreciation, like you can depreciate certain things in your business, like your laptop. So they need to know, like, the core numbers. This is the first year that I'm actually going to be providing my QuickBooks data to my accountant since I just started QuickBooks. So thus far, when I have a question for him, like, hey, how much can I contribute to my SEP IRA retirement account? I'll just send him the profit and loss PDF because he can then say, okay, here's his gross income, here's the current expenses, any deductions we think we can have, and then he can crunch the numbers based on that. And if he needs more data, it's probably there, or if they're unclear. So I think my answer to that is they probably just need the P&L right now, and if they have questions, they'll just ping me.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me see if there's anything else. And there is a tab here, My Account. So I haven't done this, but you can invite your CPA straight
awesome.
to kind of access your data.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So you don't have to, like, it's not a requirement. If your CPA says, like, we need it, it's a little bit of an overstep in privacy, I think, but they're already managing your financials, so it's not like it's not like you have much to hide from them.
Yeah, it's up to you if you want to do it or not.
Yep,
If not, you can always print it out and send it over to them.
exactly. So the main tabs I use would be the transactions, sales. Like I said, since we're not like a point of sale merchant with inventory, I'm not really using this. And for a minute I thought, hey, could I use this to track like transactional sales? And I don't think it makes any sense to do it that way. So if you guys decide differently, let me know.
What do you mean by transactional sales?
Like, oh, I sold a $250,000 house and the GCI was
Oh, so using it like that specific?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like sales. So
Okay.
when this hits us, when this hits my account, it's the check in my account. It's
Yeah.
not what's the GCI, what's the
Yeah.
you know
You'd basically just be
splits.
redoing what Laura's already doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's visibility that you don't need for, I shouldn't say that, because if you really wanted to be granular about it, maybe your GCI is 10K, but you're paying a team split, or you're paying a lot of referral
Right.
fees, and you wanted to, track it there. But I don't think QuickBooks is the right platform for that. I would use like Command or another, transaction management software piece for that. So transactions, expenses, you can go straight through. Payroll. So if you're going to hire an admin, an assistant, or even if you're going to payroll yourself, and this might be like the 201 class, but you can, when you file as a corporation or an S-corp/LLC, you're actually required to establish payroll for yourself. So let's say your business brings in 200K, but you're paying yourself as an employee of the business 75K. It's a tax strategy move to avoid self-employment tax. So QuickBooks has this add-on feature. It does cost more to generate payroll. So if you get to that point, that's a good starting point. There are obviously other payroll software platforms out there, ADP, Paychecks. So do your homework, and there are agents in our office that are doing this. So consult with them. What's working for them. I know like Pat probably does it. Some of the other more established.
Jamie definitely does it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a great tax strategy. It does have a little bit of extra administration, but once your production and your income gets to that level, you're overpaying in taxes if you're not doing it, pretty much. So we'll go over that at some point in the year. But I would say first and foremost, start to use something for tracking. I am available for helping you guys set up, helping you kind of establish in your heads what the flow of accounts is. But yeah, at its core, have an income account, have an expense account as far as credit card and checking or savings, and then link it up and start playing around.
I use Mint also, and my thing is I always forget my password, so then you have to like reset your password, but then you have to also then reset it on QuickBooks and in Mint. And,
Yeah.
Oh, man.
because then I forget, and then I start getting notifications like, oh, we couldn't link this account this month,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
Occasionally your bank account will change like its security protocol and you have to re-log in. So just keep up on that. Yeah, Mint is great for tracking, just general expenses, net worth. That's another big thing. Like if you're treating your business as a business, treat your personal finances as a business. Net worth would be more of a balance sheet type of
Yeah.
metric than your profit and loss is more about the revenue, the income.
Like Mint, I have everything in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like every credit card, every bank account.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
because
then, didn't you say that was linked to this?
they're the same company,
Oh,
but it's a different app. You'll likely have a different
okay.
account / login between the two, but they're just owned by the same parent company, Intuit. So
So can she do all of this stuff in that?
No,
Or would you have
I don't
to?
think so.
No.
I don't think you could do like a
it's-
profit and loss
it's-
in Mint.
No, Mint is not. Actually, let me show you guys real quick. They'll probably have a little sales page. We can look
QuickBooks
at.
is better than that, you're saying?
For your business.
It's different.
business. Mint I like because it gives you like your to the day net worth. It'll take.
Here we go. Budget, tracker, and planner. So we're not budgeting necessarily for your sales business. You're just kind of evaluating expenses. What is Mint? So I signed up for Mint in like 2013, linked a bunch of accounts, and I would go in just same thing every week or so, or when I was really honest with my finances, like every day, and I'm like, what's this expense? Categorize it, and then I can look, my 2013 net worth, my 2014 net worth. How much did I spend on groceries in May of 2015? Like, it's helpful data. You can see the trends over time.
And it gives you like, so I can just click on Mint and it gives all my recent transactions for all my credit cards.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it gives you your up to date like net worth, whether it's cash, credit cards,
Do you label things in
investments.
there yourself? Like, or no?
No, it kind of does a pretty good job of labeling.
It's just like QuickBooks. It has a lot of the pre-selected categories. I added, I'll add them occasionally, like if there's a specific income source that is not captured there. Like I think I added a rental income category because they don't have it. So it's just a nice, it's a nice tracker for that. But I would say use Mint more for personal tracking. But you can see up here, this is like the suite that Intuit owns. So TurboTax, QuickBooks, Mint, Credit Karma. And to a degree, they do communicate with one another, but I don't think Mint and QuickBooks communicate quite like you're asking.
Right, okay.
So,
This
yeah.
is all good too, if anybody like wants to buy investment properties, you know, they're always, anytime I apply for a mortgage, they always wanna see a profit and loss. So I'm usually like scrambling together to make one up, you know, but this is would be way easier if you.
I just had to do it, I just had to do that, because we're doing a refinance, and,
Yep.
my profit and loss sheet is a joke. It looks like a 5-year-old put it together,
Yeah,
so.
I did the same
I'm
thing.
embarrassed.
April
The underwriters accepted, I'm like,
April
well,
2020, April 2020, when we bought our last house, the mortgage lender was like, hey, we need a P&L for the year. And I'm like, I don't have that. So I opened up Excel and I added all my commissions and I thought, like, what are the main expenses? And I did each month. But when you send them this, polished, clean, and it's
See, I don't even know how to
instantaneous.
use Excel, so you were a step ahead of me. At first, I was like, "What's a P&L?" So
Yeah, it's a learning process. Don't be hard on yourself. Always happy to walk you guys through it. So,
Yeah.
questions?
And John, when did you say you really started using yours?
QuickBooks?
Yeah.
This year. 'Cause
A profit loss statement, I mean.
I shouldn't say this year because we're in the new year. Last year, like
Okay. So, you know,
March.
it's not something that you're ingrained in using, you have to learn, just like everything else. So I think that's why we have this class today. We really want people that are selling real estate to think it is a business. And if you're not tracking your expenses, you can spend, and believe me, I hear all the saga stories. I worked so hard, I made $250,000 and I don't have any money. I hear it all. It's because they're not tracking their expenses and looking on a regular basis. And if you ever get the pleasure of sitting with Gary Keller, the first thing he's going to say is, do you have a profit and loss statement? And let me see it. And he's going to talk to you about that. That's what he's very, very big on, profit and loss, and watching, making sure your money's working for you. So, you know, that's the reason that you have things like this. So I think
Yep.
it's awesome.
yeah,
And it's never too late to start.
yeah, and it's as far as being too early to start. Once you have a transaction or we're close, I think that's a great time to start. Lay the groundwork early. That way you're not scrambling backwards like I did.
Yeah.
I just
No, it's
I got
for the
too
new
much
agents.
anxiety.
This is perfect, right? If you're like Megan, it's going to be a little bit more challenging because she's got a lot more components in there. But
Mhm.
it's great to start out. It's so much easier to work into it, you know, than
Yeah, and if you're that busy and producing at a high level, hire a bookkeeper. They'll handle your QuickBooks.
Yeah.
I mean, Laura, to an extent, I think she has a pretty strong background in using QuickBooks.
Mhm.
Not that she's a bookkeeper, but there are people out there that, you know, they could come into your office, not even. They could log into your QuickBooks account every month and
Yeah.
start categorizing for you, to text you or call you. with
Laura's really
questions.
good at that. And she would
Yeah.
actually help people out as well. She would, you know, if you needed help, she would help you with that.
Yeah, so,
That's what she loves, actually. That's what she likes to do. That's her stuff she likes to do. But yeah,
Nice. So do it, start it. I did, as far as the discounts go, I just found out last night QuickBooks has a brand ambassador program. So I can send referral links, but they haven't gotten back to me on my application. So if you're still on the fence and you're waiting, I'll try to get you guys that referral link if it becomes available. Otherwise, sign up for their,
go with the cheapest one.
Yeah,
and I think right now is the best time to sign up too, because
Oh,
if I don't
it's
sign up now, then it'll be June and I'll be like, I'll just wait till January.
Right.
this,
Exactly.
like you saw, I have nothing in my 2022
Meg, you
P&L.
really like it, I guess.
Perfect,
I probably
perfect
would,
time to
it's
start.
finding the time to do.
5 days
Yeah.
in the year, because when it comes April 15th and you're scrambling on last year's, it's just stressful and you're kind of just like hoping you capture everything and you're leaving things on the table. So
Yeah.
it's totally worth it, and it's not time intensive at all once you set it up and once you're familiar.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank
All right,
you.
Thanks, John.
What about your
Great.
aha? What are your aha?
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have lots of them. I have lots of questions, so I don't know. I learned a lot, though.
Schedule some time with me.
Yeah,
Just chat.
for sure.
But yeah, if you guys are gonna sign up, like I said, maybe start with the
Sam's got
self-employed
hers,
tier.
I saw it. I mean, I just saw that you had to think of that, but.
Yeah.
Start with self-employed, pay monthly, and then you know, schedule a time, whether it's by yourself or stop into my office. We'll get bank accounts linked. You need your credit card number. You need your checking and routing numbers. Or
I
actually
think it's
not even.
how was the gas thing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and like how the app, and you don't have to turn it on and like remember it necessarily.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yep.
Doing
When I
that to
when
that.
I was using, or how I use Mile IQ is like I forget about it for 3 months, and then when I'm bored, like before a showing, I'll go in and start swiping business or personal, and you just categorize by, physically swiping a transaction to the left or the right. Kind of like Tinder.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Not that I've ever used it. So.
Are you so familiar with Tinder, John?
Just good
I love
grapevine. So,
No, but
Alright,
this is
guys.
very helpful.
Great,
Yes.
plan.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
our intentions are, John's intentions are, at a later time, have another class that's maybe a little bit more advanced than this. So if we can get this part done and started, then this group will go, and hopefully others will go to the next class, and it'll be a little bit more in-depth. So,
Yep.
today was kind of basic, generic, and the next one will be a little bit more in detail, so.
yes, if you haven't done so yet for the year, I do recommend setting a goal
Yep.
financially with some sort of number in it. It doesn't have to be, profit. I mean, profit is how you pay the bills, so it's a good one. But whether it's units, volume, I mean, you should really have all of them. But give yourself something to work to, break it down. What are the actions I need to do to make it happen? And QuickBooks will help you keep yourself accountable along the way.
Great, I love it.
Cool. All right, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks.
John.
Thank you.
Yep.
Awesome stuff. We're all gonna be millionaires.
Absolutely.
Watching all our money.